Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Shish. I'm the lead for retail and consumer goods within Microsoft for Startups, and I work with a very small, curated group of startups called the Pegasus Startups. And this is part of the Founder Friday series, and we're kind of going a little different this time. We're going to go with a panel instead of a single founder. So we've got three founders today, and we're going to go into a very interesting conversation. This actually it comes before NRF. For NRF, there's something we are putting together. We looked at multi-agentic AI as one of the big topics that's going to be discussed at NRF, and we worked together to pull together a demo that showcases a couple of retail scenarios. And this was really looking at how can we have different companies build agents and these agents work together, not only with each other, but also with humans. And then we pull together a scenario around a retail store. The startups that we have today are Nimble, Omnistream, and YDISTRI. Each of them do a very specific task within a retail store, and they've built agents. And we decided we're going to work together, build this multi-agentic system, and showcase it at NRF. So we've got the founders of the three startups here, and we're going to talk about what we do and what agents can do. And most importantly, we're also going to be showcasing this at NRF. So you're going to be seeing the actual demo there. So let's begin talking to the founders and learning more about what they do, who they are, and what problem they solve. So let's begin with Wendy from Omnistream. Wendy, tell us something about yourself, something about Omnistream, and what problem you solve.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy. I'm the founder of Omnistream. A little bit about myself. Well, I don't come from a retail background. I actually come from quant trading, and our team is a nice mixture of geeky quants and retail expertise. It brings a really new perspective to how we solve the problem of retail assortment. So the problem we solve is how do you pick the unique assortment that fits for every store and actually lay it out in a planogram that can be executed by your store staff to save labor and to drive uplift.
Thank you. And Amaury, tell us something about yourself, Nimble, and the problem you solve.
So my name is Amaury. I lead the sales engineering team at Nimble. I'm filling for Uri, our CEO, who unfortunately couldn't make it. So Nimble solves the reliability problem in competitive intelligence, right? So reality is that most retailers either can't get the data they need or they get data they can't trust. Traditional web scraping is very fragile. It breaks when sites are changing, it leaves critical gaps and require handless kind of manual QA. So by the time you validated the data, market has moved. So that's why we developed our web search agent that literally transform live web data into structured, queryable data that powers real-time intelligence for AI analytics and business decision making.
And going on to Mario from YDISTRI. Tell us something about yourself, about YDISTRI, and the problem you solve.
Okay, so I'm Mario from YDISTRI. Happy to be here. I'm one of the co-founders. And what we are doing in YDISTRI, we are cracking the problem of the unsellable inventory. You know that this unsellable inventory is creating problems with the margins, with the selling of the product, and with the overall customer experience. And how we are cracking it, you might be asking yourself, why are we here if we have like super sophisticated replenishment solutions? Right? Those solutions are great, but you know what we are doing? We are bringing some responsive layer on top of these solutions. And if something is not selling in location A for some reason, we are moving into location B and selling it much faster without any additional discount. So that's really quickly about YDISTRI.
Super, thank you. And what we saw here is really three startups that can pretty much independently work on their own and address the challenges, very specific siloed challenges within retail. And at the same time, there is a lot of synergy between the three. And what we did when we worked together is really brainstorm and figure out how can YDISTRI, Omnistream, and Nimble work together. And one of the aspects that we looked at, mainly from a multi-agentic perspective, is to say, is there a way that if all of these had agents, is there a way that it could be easier? And my question was, is it really better for agents, or is it, autonomous systems and workflows, all of that work just fine? So, question for Wendy: what do you think is the real advantage of agentic systems versus the standard workflows and integration that we had in the past?
Thank you for the question. So let me take it one level higher just to talk about the value it brings. Like, what are the actual business problems it solves, and why is it helpful to actually be able to plan across silos and across, quite frankly, business units? Let's take Mario and I, since he's on the call here. When you're talking about planograms, how do you actually think about the number of units and the type of products, where they should be placed in store? That very clearly ties into inventory redistribution. So our customers tend to have hundreds of thousands of stores that range all over the country and just have really complex processes for takebacks and reverse logistics, let alone like the number of facings and the type of seasonality that each store faces. So when we're creating the store level planning, store level planograms, it's really helpful for us when we look at new products to be able to work with someone like Mario and have that system as something that you can talk to, because it allows you to change the cost of being wrong, or the cost of experimentation, or the cost of simulation. And that's what agents are really about, right? When information and when tasks become easier and cheaper, you will naturally run more simulations to really think about what's the optimal outcome. So not just being able to think about ideal planogram, but being able to connect that to something like redistribution will naturally give you more confidence in any simulation you run. So forget putting the technology aside. I think that's a very clear win from a business value perspective. I'll let one of our other colleagues talk about the technological advantages.
If I may, since you were mentioning me, of course, we are talking here about also another level or higher level, which is like multi-agentic scenarios. And here in this case, yeah, we exactly see the huge advantage that basically you can have multiple really specialized solutions. In our case, these are SAS solutions, and they are really like doing their specific things very good. They are laser focused, and one of the advantages, because there are many, but when we are talking about these multi-agentic scenarios, it enables us basically to create scenarios where these solutions are cooperating a little bit closely without really too much friction. Yeah. So exactly as Wendy was mentioning, there is quite nice connection between what she's doing and what we are doing. Once she really like prepared the planograms, we can help her, by making sure that those planograms are really like in realization much faster. Plus, we can add there some additional magic from YDISTRI. So we are just like packing in some additional redistributions, which are moving the unsellable inventory from one location to another, and just making sure that, two problems are solved at once and bringing the customer higher additional value. So yeah, this is really cool, and I'm quite surprised that we are talking about these things here today.
Yeah, I like the fact that there's the capabilities where when you think about agents, you have agents have skills and capabilities, and you have an agent with the skills and capabilities from Omnistream, and agents that have the skills and capabilities from YDISTRI and Nimble. And when you kind of take all those capabilities together and say, here's the overall intent of what I want to do, what are the capabilities that I need to have in place? And some capabilities come from Omnistream, some from Nimble, and some from YDISTRI. Amaury, what is your perspective on agentic? The whole conversation here is one of the things that I see is many retailers that are listening to us and will be at NRF will be asking the question, why do you need agents to do this? Can this be done another way, or the way they've been doing it?
It's a great question, and it's indeed a very trendy question. I think there's a very important distinction about like traditional automation and agentic kind of workflow. Traditional automation executes instructions. Agentic AI accomplishes objective, and that's a dramatic difference. So in our case, if you think about collecting live web data for pricing intelligence, right? So a traditional scraper is going to be following rigid scripts, So as soon as the websites change, and they do change, it breaks. So that's going to cause data and intelligence gap, and eventually pretty big impact from a business perspective. All web search agents navigate autonomously. They adapt to changes, they understand the context, they see what changed from the website, if things are changing names, different type of promotion. Again, they're not following instruction, they're solving the problem to make sure that they keep delivering the data in a constant flow that's structured, again, without having to follow rigid instructions are going to break.
Love that. So overall, the perspectives that we saw from all three was one, it is the capabilities that you have across all of these. And Mario, you mentioned as well, there is domain expertise that you're coming in with. And each of you is coming with a different domain expertise. And those became the capabilities and skills of the agents that you built. And generally, when we're looking at multi-agentic systems, we are defining an overall goal of what we want to do. And it's going to be goal-oriented. And as Amaury, you pointed out, it's no longer going to be workflows that are predefined. It's the intent and goal that is predefined. And agents behave better when it's that way, where the intent is defined. It will not necessarily go in one path. It'll try to do whatever it takes to get to that goal, whatever capability and skill is needed. And that's really the huge difference. And I just love that whole concept and the way that you guys put together the agents to solve a specific problem. So from a retailer perspective, I'll go to Wendy again. A question about the scenario that we built for NRF. I'm kind of curious about your perspective and on how should a retailer look at the scenario that we built for optimizing inventory or addressing the inventory challenge with agents?
Oh, it's interesting you use the word scenario. I'm going to go back to the theme that I think is the most powerful when you bring in agentic workflows. It's a theme around simulations and for retailers to create their own scenarios. In retail operations or in retail execution, there's rarely such a thing as, free lunch. Everything you do has a trade-off. When you bring in new trendy products, it means that you have to invest labor and shelf space, which may affect your efficiency, like your space efficiency, right? So being able to run simulations, that's really the power that we're bringing in our NRF scenario. I know in a demo, we're showing a smooth one-off, right? Or you just run it one time through. But the reality is when planning gets condensed from weeks into minutes, you naturally get more time to understand trade-offs. And when you're able to empower commercial teams to understand trade-offs, the decisions will naturally be better. The reality of the environment we're operating in now is that the half-life of a good decision is now so short. So that's what I think about our NRF scenario. Just being able to understand, do you want to capitalize on this trend? Where do you want to capitalize on this trend? And how does it really impact you from shopper experience at shelf all the way through to supply chain?
I love that. So the agents are pretty much simulating the whole scenario and giving an option for the retailer to figure out, is that the route that they should be taking, and it simulates the whole thing. Love it. The other perspective also, I'm curious about from moving from monolithic. So today, a lot of retailers have monolithic applications, and there's this concept of agentic AI that's coming in. I'm curious about your thoughts on what is the right approach that a retailer should take when they're thinking about agents. Like, for example, all of you have built agents, but at the same time, many retailers and brands have monolithic solutions out there. What should they be thinking about when deploying an agent? Should they be replacing everything they have? Should they be looking at very specific capabilities? And I'd like a perspective on your specific capability that you have. How should retailers be thinking about the agents that you built? I'll begin with Mario.
From our perspective, as we are looking at it, because this concept is pretty new, also in our case, And what we are slowly discovering is that similarly as we can see it in this scenario, looking for the solutions which are enabling you, to bring up this, agentic capabilities and maybe create scenarios such as we have here, can be a good approach, to have basically solutions which are following the agentic design and which are basically enabling you in a way to construct, I don't want to say architecture, but like some collection of the agents, or like a collection of the agents which are fulfilling the purpose of your business. Yeah, you can basically be pretty creative here, and I'd say that pretty soon a lot of SAS solutions will have these capabilities where you can basically just look on the solutions which are laser focused on a specific area, and which are very good in that, and you can compile the best of the best into like some concise scenario which will be bringing you overall goal at the end of the day.
And in a way as well, looking at the overall capabilities they need and trying to figure out what are the capabilities that could be automated to an agent or put into a NLP interface, and then go one by one on those capabilities and say we want this to be an agent, that these capabilities for YDISTRI to be an agent. So yeah, I love that aspect as well. In general, I think the consensus has been, do we want to replace entire monolithic systems with agentic right away? The answer is no. It's more of a phased approach to say, let's look at what capabilities we want to convert first. Amaury, your opinion on that?
100%. I think, in our case, if you're looking at, Fortune 500 companies, most of them are already doing some kind of competitive intelligence, right? What we want to do is let's find where we can provide the most value, the faster, to showcase that, yes, we can deliver value extremely quickly and eventually expand, right? So when people's like, oh, yes, we're already doing some competitive intelligence, you need to dive into the detail. What does it mean? Maybe they're getting the data a week later, meaning when it's too late. Maybe they're not monitoring specific key retailers that's their key competitors that they should know about. Maybe they're just getting prices and not getting promotion, or they don't really get the reviews, the ratings, or they're getting only specific SKUs while they should be monitoring entire categories, or they're getting national prices where specific location might have 2,000 locations, as Wendy was mentioning it, and prices differ whether it's in the US, in the UK, in Spain, wherever you want. But again, getting price by store, by zip code, also can be very important. Everybody's trying to understand whether it's Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, price are going to differ, and you need to be able to monitor that.
So in a way, it would be easier for customers to deploy if it was an agent where they'll say, I want to get some information about my competition. And the agentic deployment would be a quicker one than trying to integrate systems and build those systems out. Also curious from an enterprise perspective. So one of the things that we're looking at is all of you have amazing capabilities that can empower a retailer. And one of the things that I'm also looking at is from a founder's perspective, what does enterprise readiness really mean? And when you're talking to a retailer out there, they're looking at hundreds or thousands of startups. So I'd love to hear your perspective on enterprise readiness. Let's begin with Wendy.
So, this is always an interesting question. From my perspective, if we're talking about AI-enabled solutions, the number one thing we think about when we're talking to enterprises or thinking about enterprise readiness is really around governance. So data governance, right? So at what point should the agent refuse to do something? At what point does the agent need to say, I don't know? That's a really powerful one. When should it step back and just say, don't listen to me, I don't have enough information, the data that I'm getting looks wrong, and we need to go back to the drawing board. So our onboarding process consists of a week-long process just to determine when should the agent say, I don't know. I'll let some of our other colleagues fill in on the other gaps, but for us, that's by far the most important thing.
Totally agree. Yep. Maria.
Yeah, totally. And from our perspective, of course, if I can speak a little bit more generally, of course, we need to make sure that our solution is delivered reliably, securely. The compliance needs to be in place, and of course, since we have AI-based solution, that there is still kind of distrust sometimes, when it comes to the AI solutions, when it comes to those hallucinations and everything like that. So basically, we need to prove to the customer that this is not the case when it comes to our solution, to show them on the pilots and also on the way how our solution works, that they could rely on us, and there shouldn't be any problem when we are going to buy hallucination move $10,000 worth of inventory from one location to the other one. Nobody wants that. So I'd say that this is also quite important thing, to somehow confirm it with them that, yeah, okay, you shouldn't be afraid. This is really working and has been proven and brings real numbers.
Fully agree with that. Like right now, like security, reliability, integration, like these are table stake. Like people expect it. Like it's not even a topic of discussion. I mean, obviously, it needs to be there, but that's not where people focus on. I think, yeah, getting data that you can trust, I would say, is the biggest element that we hear from Fortune 500 companies. We want to understand what we're getting. If there is an issue, we want to know about it. Like we keep hearing, the worst thing that we can get is not getting data, is not getting data, is getting data that we cannot trust, because it's just going to pollute everything, your model, your data, your dashboard, your decision. So they want to know that if they receive data, it's something they can actually make decision on and trust.
Thank you. And this is part of the whole point of what we do at Microsoft for Startups. We work with startups and look at all the different aspects of what we call enterprise readiness, and we have a lot of frameworks that determine that startups are enterprise ready, and all the ones in the Pegasus portfolio follow those guidelines. So the ones we recommend are enterprise ready startups. It's been an amazing conversation, and what I would like to point out to the audience is to reach out to each individual company if you want to know more. So Wendy from Omnistream, Amaury from Nimble, and Mario from YDISTRI, this has been a great conversation. This was just a tiny sneak peek of what is in store at NRF. We have an on-stage presentation in the Microsoft booth at NRF where we're going to be showcasing a multi-agentic scenario where Nimble brings in the external data. The agent goes out and pulls in competitor information and trend information and all of that. And Omnistream's agent will then work with that data and determine what should be the right assortment and planogram and inventory. And then YDISTRI agent will use that information in redistributing stock based on demand in specific stores and more demand in others, and so on. So these agents work together, and the orchestration is done using AI, really trying to determine what's the intent. And based on that intent, the orchestration runs. And this is just an example of multiple different things that could be done with multi-agents. And these are companies that are at the forefront of working with multi-agents and agentic platforms. So I encourage you to reach out to them and go deeper into their specific solutions. With that, thank you very much and appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.